The School District of Waukesha together. We'll call the Policy Committee meeting for the School District of Waukesha together. We'll call the Policy Committee meeting for the School District of Waukesha together. We'll call the Policy Committee meeting for the School District of Waukesha together. We'll call the Policy Committee meeting for the School District of Waukesha together. We'll call the Policy Committee meeting for the School District of Waukesha together. We'll call the Policy Committee meeting for We'll call the policy committee meeting for... You're still talking.
It was on.
That was different.
Is it now me?
It's on. I hear it.
But it's informal talk. We're chitter-chatting.
That one is
Yeah,
working
there
right.
should be a little bit of a delay in the broadcast, but
Good evening. At great risk to technology. Are we working now? Okay. Okay, July 14th, Policy Committee meeting. Has the meeting been properly posted?
Yes, we have.
Thank you. We have apparently no citizens that are here to address us, so we will move right through that to our policy items. We have the minutes from our previous meeting, May 17th. Seeking approval on that, Joel?
I move approval as presented.
Second?
Seconded by Barb. Any questions or changes? If not, we'll, all in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's complete. We have no information items. We have about 4 discussion items. Joe, did you want to start off with the Neola policy?
Yes. So as we've talked now the past several months about beginning the work on the Neola policies, doing a policy review for the district, we're in a position now where we're trying to establish some dates with Richard Zeman from Neola, who's going to come in and work with us, our administrative team, members of the committee. We do have some proposed dates in front of you to begin our work, and as you can see, we are looking at, about 10 or 11 days of work. 5 of those days will be scheduled with Richard. Additional days will be scheduled based off of what we feel we need to do as far as a review. Richard is very skilled. I think he's taken about 40, 50 districts through this process. So he knows how to present things. He's got a process for review. So he'll do a good job of guiding us, I believe. But when we begin this work, you'll see that there are 5 scheduled sessions with Richard broken out. What we're trying to do right now is coordinate with administrators' schedules. The dates that you see are June through August dates. We want to try to get a lot of this lifting done in the summer. We also have a lot of administrators who want to take some vacation time, so we're doing our best to work through that. I do believe that we'll be able to capture 5 to 10 of these days this summer, and then that will help us set course for bringing updated policy series and an updated policy manual to committee, giving us the appropriate time to review it in committee, and then bringing that forward to board, give the board plenty of time to review what has been presented, bring it back to committee, and then get back into our policy adoption process.
Barbara?
Are these dates that you have listed, Joe, meetings that you're going to have with the Administrative Policy Committee, or are they going to include us?
As we talked about at the last meeting, we are going to be sending out an opportunity to attend, knowing that we don't want to have a quorum present. We were thinking about having one committee member there and present. It is going to be a lot of administrative work and
Okay,
conversation.
okay.
Again, kind of thinking about how we've developed policy in the past. A lot of administrative recommendation comes to the committee, which then goes to the board and so on for approval. So using that same mindset, our administrators will do a lot of the heavy lifting on what's being presented, but we are asking that a committee member be present.
What time will that be?
We're looking at full-day sessions.
Wow, okay.
Are you in the process now of coordinating the dates with the administrators?
Yes, Lynn
And that's what
sent
Lynn's
out,
working on?
Lynn sent out calendar invites today.
Okay.
Lynn and I met and spoke about which would be the appropriate administrators to have at each work session. We're over-inviting, hoping that we get the core there.
Would you send us, do you want us to sign up for dates, or do you just want us to come at random?
We will reach out when it's going to be a good time. We want to
Okay.
make sure that we solidify the administrative team.
Yes,
and then-
first.
And then we'll reach out. You know, some
Okay.
of these work sessions are going to be with Richard. Some of them are going to be independent of Richard based off of what his
Okay.
guidance was.
All right. Thank you.
Joe?
What we could do too, just to be on the safe side, is just post that a quorum could potentially be
Right.
present. And then we could come and go as we wish, and we wouldn't have to worry about being
up.
incorrect in our procedure, so we would be okay with that.
We'll make sure that those are posted.
And I wonder if other board members might want to just, stop on by and just see the process too, but,
Get
I
too
think
many-
it should be the
get-
work of the
Get too many
committee.
board members there and you'll slow it down to a
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
halt.
let the committee do the work, yeah. I hear you, Bill.
So just want to make sure that you're up to speed on where we're at, that we're actively pursuing this. One of the conversations that I did have with Richard, and it kind of come from some of the conversations that the whole board has had, the committee has had over the past few months, is the idea around the administrative guidelines that are going to support. And we elected to go with policies first and do our policy work first and commit to that first. But some of the comments that have been made, and I wanted to bring it to some of our policies, in essence, are our guidelines. And to make sure that we're, do we need to entertain both at the same time? Do we want to fully commit to one and then wait on the other? And just something for the committee to consider is, we could go into the administrative guidelines, at the same time. So where appropriate, we could have a policy, for instance, on student records. We could have the guidelines that are developed right away to support that policy, instead of approving the policy and then coming back and trying to do the guideline for it. So I bring it to the committee to talk about if we want to do that work right now. A handful of our policies are really, really strongly supported by the guidelines.
Would you think in those sessions, that you've dated off here, that might be part of the discussion, though?
It could be, but the policies were an additional contract, an additional service.
Guidelines.
Yeah, the guidelines, I'm sorry, the guidelines. So when we came to you, we talked about purchasing the policy
Right.
support first and then going to the guidelines. But what we're finding in some of our conversations, it might make sense for us to purchase the guidelines along with the policy piece.
Then at those, at these sessions here, you would be able to address both of them if we get into that. Okay, so what you really want to do is determine as soon as possible whether you think it's a good idea to get into the guidelines as well. That's an additional fee.
Correct.
Do we have
And
to,
when
do we have to bring that back to the board then?
When we proposed this, we proposed it as about a $16,000 purchase, and that was what was discussed. At the time, we elected to go with policies first and then wait on guidelines. So it'd really be the addition of about $8,000 purchase for the guideline series and the guideline support as well. So the conversation, the motion at the board was to buy the policies first and then not the guidelines. But the overall cost was discussed and everybody was made aware that we were going to eventually go down the road of both. So,
I think we should bring the additional 8,000 though, that's,
if I were making a recommendation, the recommendation would be, let's get started with this and then let's see what July shows us.
okay. That's what I'm worried about, because even though it might make perfect sense to go into the guidelines, if you don't go back to the board and ask for it, somebody's gonna raise an issue. I
Yeah,
can
and-
probably even figure out who.
And more just that my mind is more like what's appropriate. And it's not even so much the coming back and asking the question. It's just making sure that we timeline it
Yeah.
appropriate. I think that we had initially talked about getting the policies passed and then coming back to guidelines, looking at it, kind of bigger picture, instead of waiting, 6, 8, 9 months out. I might be coming back to you and saying that, I would recommend that we would go a month or two out. So
Even
coming
if we
back to
did it in July, that would be
July, August.
satisfactory.
Instead of March, April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I think there's two separate items that we're talking about. One is what makes sense in terms of how should we process this, policy first and then guidelines, or do it mixed together? And then the second discussion really is dealing with what did we actually approve by the full board? And I thought the full $16,000 was on, but I also was presented to the full board, but I also thought that what was approved was the $8,000 for the policy. and We
That's-
would come back at a later
That's
time.
what's troubling me.
And then ask for the other $8,000 if we believe the guidelines is gonna go forward.
And that is how that it came out.
Okay.
And that's why at committee tonight, I'm saying we may want to consider just expediting the time that we, instead of delaying the guidelines, we might want to come back and have that conversation with the whole
Right.
board.
I mean, I personally think it's more difficult to talk just on policy only
is.
without the guidelines because they're
is.
so meshed together and they should be coordinated together. So when we're on topic X for a policy, I think it's more natural to talk about topic
guidelines.
X, policy and guidelines together, make sure those are coordinated well. So I think it makes more sense to do them together.
Together.
I would bring that forward. Barbara?
That's what I was going to say, because so many of the guidelines are a part of the policy or describe the policy in detail, how we're going to follow it. So we probably should do policy and guidelines together.
I would just add, in giving it a little bit of time, we were able to really discuss more fully, the relationship between our guidelines and our policy. And I think it became a little bit more clear exactly how much the administrative guidelines actually support and direct our work in the system. Whereas, if you just look on the website, you see policy, and then you see the policy number with a G after it. I think that this has given us.
There would be a way for you to word, or for us to word the action at, for instance, even the July meeting in such a manner that we're given the approval for the $8,000 for the guidelines as we determine through these meetings that it's necessary, That it would leave you open, but without spending the money until you need it. Is that correct, Joe?
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion, Bill. Because, we want to do something that's going to be effective, right, and efficient. I think if we separate policy, finish that, and then come back and look at the guidelines, I'm thinking from an efficiency perspective, that's going to be kind of a headache. And yeah, if we whatever motion we bring forward at the next full board meeting, just have it be flexible so that we get approval of the full dollar amount, but we can implement however we want.
The process.
We did restrict ourselves a little bit there, but we didn't know, so.
I don't necessarily know, I would just add that it really has allowed us to ask some very appropriate questions.
Well, and as you're beginning to have these
as you-
meetings, that's what's
Yeah.
coming up.
As you dig into it, you want to know one's going to support the other, because many districts who have gone through the Neola piece have done a policy series, and then they've come back after they've done, their 1,000 through their 9,000 series for policy, and they then have established all of their administrative guidelines at that time. And this has really allowed us to balance what our policies say versus our guidelines, and I think help direct our work better as we get into this.
Perfect sense. Okay, anything else on item 2?
Nope, we'll have the calendar invites out to all board. It will come through your Gmail, and then we'll follow it up with an email to you with the dates. So you get a calendar invite from us, but you'll also get an email notification as to when those meetings are, and then Lynn will make sure that they're posted appropriately.
Can we put them in the packet too?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 3 on our agenda deals with, actually 3 and 4 in sequence here, deal with the 2 policies that we brought up at the last week, whenever the meeting was last week. There was no reaction from the full board to these, and that would normally mean that we can move directly into the second reading and approval in the next board meeting unless somebody here has anything you want to do differently. These are pretty cut and dry, so. Okay? Yes, Barbara?
In fact, these are left over from the former policy committee before April.
Both of them
Yeah.
were? Okay. Okay, then that's all I need to do with that one. Right.
Right.
They're straightforward changes.
They're good changes.
Yeah, they will be. Okay. Well, that took care of 3 and 4. Other business, recommendations for future committee meetings, other policies, I mean, we got our hands full with what's coming at.
Yeah, I guess I would just, remind the committee that we could be still needing to revise and approve policies that are in our current policy book ahead of the Neola adoption. If there is a state law change that we must make in policy so that we stay compliant, or if there's an issue of practice that needs to be addressed in our system as we prepare for the next school year. Because by the time this policy book is done, that might be January, February-ish of 2017, by the time we're really set and ready to go with that. Next school year is gonna start. If there are items that pop up that, board members hear of, that administration hears of, that need to be addressed, we will then be bringing policy revision to you that will then be part of our policy conversations through Neola, that will probably get replaced January or February. So there could be some duplication.
As a point of information for you, because you'll remember that Kurt brought something up at the last board meeting relative to counting credits and some of those kind of things towards the GPA. That is in the works in terms of, I met with Jody on yesterday, and we had a brief phone call with Todd at the same time, and so the wheels are turning on that. We're not ready for anything changing, whether there will be policy changes or whether it'll be something else changed. But something will be stipulated. That's on that, you remember what that was about, Todd, that valedictorian thing?
Yeah, actually, the policy doesn't need to change, but our paperwork that
Yes.
goes out about AP classes needs to change on that.
That's, yes.
That we can do right away. That doesn't need a policy change. But we may want to revisit how we treat youth options classes that are at a university when all the AP courses have been exhausted.
Yep.
So, we got into a little bit of a snag over here this last year, and it's just a matter of now making sure that we have a specific process in place, and it is understood and followed by everybody in
Right.
all the schools.
Right.
So, that's it. Barbara?
Thank you. Joe, will we ultimately end up with a binder again, or will it totally be online?
Well, we will end up with a big pile of paper as a committee.
Okay.
And as all all board members. Once that has been reviewed by the board, we will get a final policy manual. But
Okay.
all of the changes and everything will live electronically. So we're not gonna go back to the time when everybody had a big binder in their office. It'll all be hosted electronically. Our current policy is, it's very easy to navigate. What Neola is gonna present us is gonna be even easier to navigate
Really?
online. So any of the cross-referencing in policy, it'll be hyperlinked within the policy, so family member can bounce back and forth to see the supported ones. A board member, if you get called, will be able to bounce back and forth between what policies support the decision that the district is making. So the online service will be that much better, but
Okay.
we still will be reviewing everything on paper right out of the gates.
And then will we dispose of that big blue binder that we have?
It'll be-
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, there still will be a paper copy
Okay,
somewhere
there still will.
of what was done.
Okay.
But I
all
think,
of our referencing will be electronic.
and Barbara, I guess the point is, if you keep the binder,
It'll be,
you won't be keeping it up
I
to
know,
date.
I know it.
So
It'll be out
that's
of
why
date.
at some point,
You're right.
yeah, except for the index.
Yeah, Neola will give us that. I mean, if you remember back to when we met, a few months
Yes,
back.
yes.
It is about 2-3 inch piles of paper that we'll be taking a look at as far as the committee goes.
Good job.
The recommended suggested policies to review and revise that come out twice a year, those will come to us in paper to be looked at by committee, but we will also get everything electronically.
Thank you.
Any other recommendations for future committee meetings? None? All this worried about a storm.
It's coming. The radar shows it's coming about 7:30.
Oh, we got an hour.
Well,
Okay.
We have to do anything with the by letter C.
Oh, maybe I wasn't clear on what I was saying. On item 3 and 4,
Oh, you're
both of
putting
those.
those together.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just
okay,
folded
yeah.
those together.
Do you have, do we have to
No,
go back?
I don't have any questions, no. I was just-
It's a new one.
Because we don't take action at the way I understand this works here.
Right.
We don't take action, we take it to the board for
Any
the action.
discussion, right?
Unless, unless we needed to change some things.
We did- yeah,
Sometimes
but
we do. If it's minor, we do.
If there's a change.
Yeah.
Okay,
Great,
but
thank you.
there is not in this case. If that's the case, our next meeting is on July 19th, which is a Tuesday evening. And we stand adjourned. Okay. I thought we were going for a long one tonight.